Watch is a segment that we try to do every week where we take a look at what bosses are up to in the South. We have a segment of Boss Watch that is sponsored by Labor Lab called Union Busters. Labor Lab is an employer watchdog organization. They are committed to safeguarding the right to organize through unions, collective bargaining, and mutual aid. They do this by combing through reports that union busters are required to file with the Department of Labor. Last week's updates come from Citizen Access Residential Resources in Olympia, Washington, where they hired Action Resources for almost $4,000 a day. Citizens Access is a nonprofit that supports adults with developmental disabilities. And Action Resources, which sometimes also goes by the name Team Optimal Employee Relations, is owned by Alex Alejandro Casillas. Action Resources, in this case, subcontracted Lito Labor for $2,000 a day. Luzo Slim is the president of Lito Labor and a senior consultant at Action Resources. She is a former union representative for Here Local 11 prior to the merger with Unite, and only 2 years before her transition to union-busting work, organized alongside Cesar Chavez. Workers alleged in a hearing that Slim and other labor consultants targeted and tricked Haitian and Latino workers, in part by telling religious workers that, quote, the union was the work of the devil. She has also been delinquent on various statements of information required to be filed annually. According to the California Secretary of State, a union campaign is ongoing at that nonprofit. EDP, which does business as Quality Propane of Minnesota in Burnsville, Minnesota, hired Independent Center for Worker Education for $350 an hour. Ryan Wathan is the president of the Independent Center for Worker Education, which also does business as the Labor Educators. Wathan is a former union organizer, having worked for UFCW for 15 years. Starting in 1990, workers lost the union election 2-6. Vacuum Truck Rentals in Richland, Mississippi hired LRI Consulting Services for $425 an hour. Amazon DSD5 in Vista, California hired Keith Williams via Road Warrior Productions for $2,000 a day. Amazon DJZ4 in Kearney, New Jersey hired Keith Williams via Road Warrior Productions for $2,000 a day. Clean Harbors in Stockton, California, hired Action Resources for almost $4,000 a day, but despite the union busting, workers won their union 13-7. And finally, Optum Health in Chappaqua, California, hired YSA Consulting in 2023. Despite the union busting, workers won their union 553-295.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Let's finish up Boss Watch. I want to make sure that I get to that because that has some stuff, some good stuff there. You know, I did the Union Buster segment, but I do want to continue to let you know that there has been no new enforcement actions or resolutions of enforcement actions at the EEOC, OSHA, MSHA, or the DOL. But we do have the results from an enforcement action that concluded late January with Texas, with Tesla in Texas. You'll remember that a couple weeks back I told you all about an electrician that died at a Tesla plant in Texas. OSHA investigated and concluded their investigation late in January, but at the time refused to make the results of the investigation public. The death happened on August the 1st. While the worker was inspecting electrical panels, the family subsequently filed a wrongful death lawsuit alleging negligence and arguing that the panel was supposed to be inactive but had already been powered up, resulting in Gomez's electrocution. Because of the atypical nature of the secrecy, Texas Representative Greg Casar, a Democrat who represents the district that the plant is located in, demanded the results of the investigation be made public, saying on Twitter, an electrician's death cannot be ignored simply because the CEO he was working for is Elon Musk. I'm demanding the release of the results of the investigation into the death of Victor Joe Gomez Sr., who was electrocuted while working at Elon's Gigafactory in my district. The results have now been made public, although OSHA doesn't have a press release about the incident, which is what would be normal. OSHA issued a citation of almost $50,000 against Tesla in late January. This is the total of three $16,500 serious violations, all at the maximum level for a serious violation. Jordan Barab, a former OSHA official who maintains a workplace safety newsletter that can be found at jordanbarab.com/confined space, explained the violations from his newsletter. One violation was for lack of personal protective equipment, stating that an employee was working in close proximity to energized parts without wearing appropriate personal protective equipment. A second violation stated that employees were permitted to work in proximity to electric power circuits that were not protected against electric shock by de-energizing and grounding the circuits or effectively guarding the circuits by insulation or other means. The employee was performing an inspection on an uninterrupted power supply cabinet without it being de-energized. OSHA has a standard commonly known as lockout-tagout that requires hazardous equipment to be de-energized or locked out before any maintenance is conducted. The final item was a violation of an electrical standard, stating that, quote, the quality control employees were exposed to electrical hazards while performing tests and inspections on newly installed electrical equipment without prior hazard analysis, warning signs, and communication of safe work procedures. Barab notes that before work began, the employer did not ascertain by inquiry or direct observation or by instruments whether any part of an energized electric power circuit, exposed or concealed, was so located that the performance of the work could bring a person, tool, or machine into physical or electrical contact with the energized electric power circuit. The employer did not post and maintain proper warning signs where such a circuit existed, and the employer did not advise employees of the location of such lines, the hazards involved, and the protective measures to be taken. There is no indication that Musk has contested the citation, although the citation is still listed as open. Just as we mentioned last time, Tesla is notorious for violating workplace safety rules. Just last year, OSHA fined the company for multiple issues, and you can take a look at the cases online right now. Those violations include lacking protections from chemical hazards. So there you go. We got the results of that investigation, but we'll see if, if we continue to get any of these. Really concerning stuff that Elon Musk is doing to Doge. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.